Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a little tiny rototiller I'm going to be working on. I got this from a friend at work who got tired of pulling on it, not working. It's got a little two-stroke engine. It's about the size of a weed eater motor. He also had these pretty cool attachments to go on. You got a thatching and aerating attachments that go on there on top of the actual rototiller blades. So I thought, yeah, cool, I could use that on my lawn. I don't have a very big one, so this would be perfect. Pretty sure it's fuel related, so I got it in, I threw some two-stroke oil in it, and I pulled the choke out, and it wants to kind of try to run every once in a while, but it doesn't ever stay running. So I'm thinking it's probably been sitting, hasn't had a lot of work done to it. I'm going to pull the carburetor off of here, kind of clean it out, see if there's any debris in the jets or anything like that, put it back together, see what happens. I mean, what's the worst, right? Alright, looks like you got your basic choke setup here. You got your primer ball here. Spark plug with some gunk on the wire. I'm not sure what that is. Is that silicone? Is he trying to patch a hole maybe? I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, it looks like he's trying to seal up some sort of hole. Either way. Pretty typical setup, pretty basic. It looks like it's just two screws. We're going to pull these guys out here. We got the fuel lines going to the carburetor, and then the throttle linkage, which looks like it's right here. So let's get started taking all that stuff off there. So these carburetors are actually pretty simple, pretty basic. They're not too complicated. I do this pretty routinely on most of the small engines that I work on because there's really not much to them. You know, you're either going to have fuel or you're not. There's only two parts to them. You got two screws to hold on this bottom part down here, and then where the the primer ball is, there's another part. You break it in half, clean all the stuff out inside there with either compressed air, carburetor cleaner, whatever you got. Hopefully the gaskets stay intact, and then you can reuse them. If the gaskets don't stay intact, the kits for these are pretty simple and pretty easy to get. And also just buying a whole new carburetor is relatively inexpensive too. So let's tear into this one and see if it's going to be savable. Alright, so the hardest part of this whole thing is removing your needle here. So this little needle sits in that little hole there, and there's a spring underneath this lever. You know, it's hard to tell in the camera, and that lifts it up off its seat and allows fuel to jet into the engine. And sometimes what happens is debris will get stuck in that little small orifice that needle closes off of. So there's a little set screw in here that holds a bar. You pull this set screw off. And then you can kind of see already the spring that's kind of coming up. Focus, maybe not. Pull that screw all the way, the rest of the way out. And then all this kind of comes up as an assembly. So there's your needle. Kind of leave that together like that if you can. Don't lose this spring. It's a little tiny spring, hard to find if you drop on the ground. And then down there is what we want to clean out. So this is basically the fully disassembled carburetor, and as it sits right now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to spray compressed air in every single one of these little tiny holes, clean the whole thing out. Same with the other pieces I took off, and then we'll reassemble it and put it back on the unit. Okay, after you've blown everything out, you start the tedious reassembly process. Oop, spring's flying. And start by putting that spring back in the seat where it belongs. And then your needle and bar assembly can go back into that hole, and then push that spring down with the lever. Kind of hold it with your finger if you can get it in position. And then while it's held down, you can put the screw back in there. And that worked out pretty good there. Usually I fumble about for a bit before it's fully seated, but then you double check it by pressing on it, making sure that kind of goes up and down like it's doing. And that side's done. And then we can put diaphragm back on it. If I can remember how it goes. Which side did that go on? Oh, I think it's going this way. Yeah, like that. And then we'll put priming ball back on it. And then the screws. Make sure the gasket kind of stays in place. You know, I'm moving around a lot. There we go. You'll feel the screws kind of go down into the gasket, past it. Alright, we've got the unit reassembled here, ready to go back on the rototiller. I haven't made any other adjustments. I haven't touched the high-low idle or anything like that yet. I'm going to assume it was set correctly before, but we can always adjust it after the fact. So let's go put it back on the rototiller. Okay, make sure that the gasket that goes between the carburetor and the engine's still there. And then kind of line up where the hoses go. You can go ahead and put the fuel lines on now if you choose. And then basically everything goes in reverse order here. The outside plate with the choke assembly on it. So you got the screws that go all the way through the carburetor and then all the way in to the engine there. And then your upper hose here and your lower hose for your fuel. Not much to it. So the goal really is, once it's all assembled, 1 or 2 pulls, this thing fires up. That's the goal. All right, everything's back together. We're gonna prime this up, and the goal here is gonna be, I don't know, 1 to 3 pulls, get it fired up, choke it. All right. Well, maybe. Very, very wet spark plug. So we know it's getting fuel. I wonder if it's got a weak spark or something. Let me see if I can have another plug to put in here. Oh, that's better. Maybe just a new plug is all it needed. Maybe wrong. Maybe wrong. Alright, I got her to fire up. It actually took a lot more effort than I wanted. Then I started looking into it more and making some adjustments, and I found the fuel line was, well, a lot more brittle than I expected. So I'm going to see if I got some fuel line to throw in there and see if that maybe fixes the problem. Alright, found some new fuel line. Got it in there. New filter. I'm wondering if maybe it was sucking air. That bottom fuel line is the intake, so as you press this primer ball, it basically sucks the fuel from the bottom through the carburetor and back through the top. As you can see, when I press the primer ball, it shoots out through the return. That's essentially what's happening. So hopefully now it'll fire up pretty easily. Fired up, but it didn't stay running, so maybe there's still something else going on. Alright, well, I was still having a hard time keeping this thing running. It ran and it sort of idled, and it didn't really rev up very high. So what I did was I took the adjusters for the high and low out of the carburetor, and then because these ones have like little needle seats that, you know, screw it in to restrict it, unscrew it to have more fuel flow for the high and low, and then blow some air through those passages. And then I also took the end caps off. These little caps right here, they go on the end of these screws, kind of limit the adjustment. There's a red and a white one if your carburetor has those. I just slid those off because they just go on the end of these, and now I can have all the adjustment I want. So I'm gonna put this all back together, see if that helps me out there. Finally got this thing dialed in. Turn it on. So the trick really was pulling those screws out here, cleaning those out. You run these all the way in afterwards, and then really it's only a couple turns out, not even, about a full turn on the low side and about a full turn and a half on the high side, and that's what really sealed the deal for me. Now it starts really easy, runs really good. So anyway, hope this helps somebody, and we'll see you guys in the next video.